Good morning. Welcome to the First Universalist Unitarian Church. My name is Amy Place, and I'm a member of this congregation. A warm welcome to our visitors this morning, and everyone. We encourage you to join us after the service for coffee in the atrium. We have red mugs reserved for visitors so that we can easily identify and get to know you. Since 1858, UU Wausau has been a vital voice for liberal religion in central Wisconsin. We are an intentionally free and inclusive community that welcomes everyone, regardless of age, sexual orientation, ethnicity, or economic status. Wherever you are on life's journey, you belong here. Between Sundays, we invite you to participate in our events and classes during the week. Be sure to subscribe to the church's newsletter and follow us on Facebook or Instagram for updates. I'd like to share a few announcements. Today is the third Sunday of the month, and our Sunday collection is dedicated to this month Wausau area mobile meals. WAM is committed to promoting good health among elderly, convalescing, and disabled individuals in the greater Wausau area by delivering hot, nutritious meals with the help of dedicated volunteers. Director Doris Spooner will be sharing more about WAM's mission and impact at the offering time. Join us for Brian's Book Club on Thursday, March 27th at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss the book Martyr by 𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗃𝗃. It is a poetry collection exploring themes of identity, faith, suffering, and the search for meaning. So mark your calendar. The next book club is on April 24th, and the book is currently to be determined. We will be hosting a blood drive for the American Red Cross on April 8th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're interested in volunteering during the event or would like to donate blood, please check our Circuit Rider newsletter, visit our social media, or contact the church's office by phone or email. And now Carl Drake is going to join us to share a few words about the Pledge campaign.
Thanks everyone for bearing with me on this topic. As you all know, I headed up the Pledge campaign for many, many years, and then I took a little time off, but I came back. And I wanted to let you know that we have a donor willing to make a $10,000 matching grant this year for all pledges which come in before April 15th. So keep that in mind. So I could stand here and just beg you for money, but I think it might be interesting for you to know a little bit about what it's like to be a part of the choir, one of the parts that you are paying for, which we all value so much. You all know, now let me back up here a minute. I read an article the other day which talked about the 8 reasons to join a church choir. And I think you all know most of what they are. You know, make friends, you learn more songs, it helps you breathe better, etc. But the one that they didn't have there was what it's like to work with Margaret 𝗔𝗯𝗄𝗃. Margaret is an incredible professional. She knows how to deal with old guys. She's kind and she knows music incredibly well. By 10:15 every Sunday, she has us singing like we were a part of the Unitarian Tabernacle Choir. A while back, she decided that the choir should do something for the auction. So she did. And it was a spaghetti dinner. Many of you have heard of it. Some of you might have even attended. But it was an interesting event. Margaret was handling the music, of course. We were singing old-time favorites, such as On Top of Spaghetti. Anna Gresh was handling the food, salad, spaghetti, and spumoni. We had many, many committees doing everything, and it all worked out beautifully. It was really fun, and Margaret was just saying, or somebody was just saying, I don't think it was Margaret, we need to do this again. But I don't think anybody's going to object to that. So these are the sorts of things that your pledges pay for. Whether it's the choir, whether it's Soul Matters, whether it's the Homeless Project, these are things which are very, very important to us. And we want them to continue. So we ask you to increase your pledge if you've already made it, or make it if you haven't. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Carl. As we begin our worship, let us take a moment to extend peace and blessings to one another. Please rise and greet your neighbors. It's really fun to watch that from up here, so if you ever want to be worship associate, you should sign up because that's just really delightful. Now, dear friends, let us gather our hearts and minds for worship. Please join me in reciting the chalice lighting. The words are printed in your order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake This morning, I'd like to tell you a story about this blanket. This one right here. I brought it from home. It was made for me by my great aunt, my Auntie Doris. She crocheted it as a gift for my confirmation. And now I have to admit that while I appreciated the thought, it wasn't exactly my style. I was in 8th grade, and I had made a deal with my parents that if I agreed to get confirmed, and if I agreed to stop intentionally aggravating Sister Catherine with my endless questions, I would never have to attend church again. It clearly worked out as I had planned. My friends had also convinced me that when you got confirmed, it ended with envelopes of cash from your relatives. So, as thoughtful as the gift was, it wasn't quite what I was hoping for. I know I received some very generous cash gifts, but I couldn't tell you I spent anything on. It was probably something from the Delia's catalog, if you're in that rough age group. I hear a couple chuckles, so I don't feel so old on my own. But I can tell you this blanket is still here. At first, it mostly sat on the end of my bed, or more likely in the corner of my room under a mound of clothes. And I really only ever pulled it out when I wanted some extra warmth or some weight at night. And when I moved out of my parents' house, it became a moving blanket that would protect fragile items. But over time, and especially since my Auntie Doris is now passed, I've come to appreciate the blanket for more than its practical uses. Now, when I open my linen closet or see it on my couch, I remember my Aunt Doris and her incredible talent. See, she crocheted this blanket in just one day. She hadn't originally been part of the plans for my confirmation party, but she found herself at my grandparents' house and decided she was going to tag along, and she couldn't come empty-handed, because that's the type of person she was. So the day before, she sat down with my grandmother in her shows, and she crocheted this up. Her talent even inspired me to make blankets for my children, but unlike my Auntie Doris, I did not make them in a day. So for Christmas this year, my kids got baskets of yarn that had the start of a concept of an idea of a blanket. So when I see my children curled up with this blanket instead of the ones I promise will be done before next Christmas, I don't think of only the warmth it provides on a chilly spring day like today. I think of my Auntie Doris and her joy and her playfulness and her spontaneity. I remember her pulling my cousin and me onto the dance floor at a family reunion to dance the Macarena with her. I think she was 72 or 73 at the time. Or her doing the high kick during the family photo just because she could. Or surprising my very type A grandmother with a visit, or an impromptu stay that would go for 1 week, and then it extended to 2, and then maybe 3. And I'm sure many of you have a blanket like this at home, one that is just more than yarn. And for me, this particular blanket carries all the memories of my Auntie Doris, and it is a reminder of her spirit and her love and the care she wove into every stitch. And that is our story for today. And invite our preschoolers through 5th graders downstairs for RE, and our 6th graders through 12th upstairs for youth group. And invite, whether you're heading off to RE or you're staying in the sanctuary, invite everyone to join in blessing each other with our children's song. The words are printed in your order of worship.
I realize not all of you might know who I am, so my name is Melody Moberg. I grew up in this congregation, and I am a candidate for Unitarian Universalist ministry. I'm grateful to be here this morning preaching about the topic of grief and Fibercraft. And now please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. You may softly close your eyes And today we'll begin by focusing our attention on something specific, which is cloth. Take a moment to notice your body. See if you can make yourself 10% more comfortable. Settle into this space and feel your collarbones broaden as the top of your head reaches up to the sky. And now with your hand, lightly touch the fabric on part of your clothing, maybe your shirt or your pants. Move your fingers across the cloth. Notice how the cloth feels. Notice its texture, rough or smooth. Consider, where did you get this clothing? What memories does it hold for you? What has this clothing seen? Has it seen vacations or events, old friends and loved ones? Imagine the threads and fibers beneath your fingertips. I wonder what they are. And imagine this material woven together out of thread. Imagine the garment workers who sewed the fabric, the people who dyed it, the people who shipped it, and the people who sold it to you. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, accompany us this day and always. Accompany us in our joys and sorrows, in times of fear and times of peace. Help us remember that everything we touch connects us to the interdependent web of life. We are sewn into the fabric of this world. And to these words, you're invited now to add your own silent prayers and intentions. May it be so, and blessed be. Please remain seated for hymn number 83, Winds Be Still.
like to welcome Doris Spooner from WAM, who will be sharing more about our monthly community-focused collection organization, Wausau Area Mobile Meals.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to come and tell you about our program. Like you said, my name is Doris Spooner, and I've been the executive director for Wausau Area Mobile Meals for about 6.5 years now. So I feel I know the program pretty well. What we do is we deliver warm, nutritious meals to the elderly, disabled, convalescing, and chronically ill in the Wausau, mostly Wausau area, but we do go down into Weston, Schofield, and Rothschild. The number one question I get from people is, are you Meals on Wheels? And we are not. We are two separate programs, and I guess I'm gonna tell you a little bit what sets us apart from Meals on Wheels. So, Wausau Area Mobile Meals is partnered up with Aspirus Wausau Hospital, and so that's where our meals are prepared. So anyone who needs a diet-specific meal, like a diabetic meal, or renal diet, or cardiac diet, we can usually meet those accommodations for them. That's one thing that we do that Meals on Wheels is not able to do. Another thing is we don't have as strict guidelines as what Meals on Wheels does. So to qualify for Meals on Wheels, you have to not only meet their age requirement, but you have to be pretty much homebound. So we do not have that requirement. We don't have a strict age requirement. So we service people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who are on permanent disability for whatever reason and could benefit from a warm, nutritious meal. And then I guess the third thing that sets us apart from Meals on Wheels is you don't have to be home to receive the meal. So sometimes people have rehab or other doctor's appointments that are going on over the lunchtime period. And they still would benefit from that meal when they get home. They still need something to eat. So we will still deliver that meal. We ask that they set out a cooler for us, and then we place that meal in the cooler so that they're able to enjoy that meal when they get home. So that's kind of the main differences between us and Meals on Wheels. We kind of serve the same populations, but we have, I guess, a little bit broader range on who we can serve. So our program delivered 31,000 meals last year in 2024. And we did that with about 90 volunteer drivers and about 15 volunteer packagers. And so we are always looking for volunteers. If anyone is interested in that, I would be interested in talking with you to give you more information on that as well. So it's typically about a 2-hour commitment, 1 day a week for our volunteers, whether you want to package the meals at the hospital or deliver the meals to the clients. About 20% of our meals are subsidized, meaning that the people we deliver to cannot afford the cost of the meal. And so that's what some of your donation would go to today, is helping to subsidize those meals. We don't turn anyone away based on their ability to pay. So if they qualify for the meal and they would benefit from them, we're gonna provide it for them. Another portion of your donations would go to just the supplies that it costs to get the meals out. So we use a reusable tray. It can go in the microwave and the dishwasher for the clients. But those trays cost about $12. So it's like $6 for the tray part and $6 for the lid. And they last for about 50 to 60 uses, but over time they crack and wear down, so those have to be replaced. And then our cold portion of our meal goes in a brown paper bag, and so we buy those bags weekly and put labels on those, so it would also go towards that. And then our meals are delivered like in coolers to keep the cold portion cold, and then we have hot bags that keep the hot meals hot. And so all those supplies are needed on an annual basis to be replaced and swapped out. So I guess the coolers, our biggest issue with coolers is keeping good handles on those coolers so that our drivers are able to put them in their cars and deliver the meals. So Meals on Wheels Mobile Meals has been around since 1976. It's a nonprofit organization, so you can see that the need has been here in the Wausau area for us to be around almost 50 years. And the cost of food and food supplies also continues to go up, as you well know if you grocery shop at all. So as our prices increase, the donations also need to continue to come in for us to do what we do. So that's Mobile Meals. Does anyone have any questions about our program? Nope? Okay. Thank you for taking the time, and if anyone again is interested in being a volunteer for us, please reach out to me. We would love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. The mission and ministry of UU Wausau is made possible by the generous support of its friends and members. You can place a gift in the donation plate as it passes by. You can also visit our website, uuwausau.org, to make a one-time or recurring gift with your credit or debit card. Thank you for your support.
Today's reading is the poem Tangled by 𝗠𝗂𝘀 Knit 6, purls 6, sets of 2 rows, 4 rows, 6 rows, up to 12, patterns repeating, steady, soothingly same. This is not what life is like. Life is like picking up a tousled hunk of yarn pulled out of a basket by an impatient child looking for a string too many times. You find an end, you follow the thread for a while, and sooner or later you hit a tangle, knots and twists and loops all mixed up together. Sometimes I sit there and untangle it, pulling little by little until I have one piece stretched out and can go on to the next one. Sometimes I grab a pair of scissors and cut. Enough. I only needed a little anyway. But sometimes I hold the tangle in my hand, amazed for a moment at the complexity, the mess. I look at it and think This can't be solved. It just is. There are patterns, connections, confusing ones, frustrating ones, the thread turning back on itself as life also does. The tangled things will always be here. In this moment I am living through, right now, whatever comes after. Even if I work through this, even if I cut the cord and walk away, look at the tangled knot in the yarn. Look at how it hurts. That concludes the reading. Today's sermon explores the intersection of grief and fibercraft. This might be a surprising connection to some people, but there are many ways we humans process and make meaning of grief through fiber. Fibercraft is art made up of fibers like wool or cotton or linen, and it includes things like knitting, crochet, embroidery, weaving, quilting, cross-stitch. It's an ancient art. It's taught down the generations, usually by women. It's beautiful and necessary for warmth and survival. For this service, I interviewed my friend Rachel Schindler, who is a quilter in Madison, Wisconsin. We'll see some of her quilts later in the service. Rachel shared with me that she believes fabric holds memory in it. It's very intimate, she says, because we wear it against our skin. Rachel inherited quilting fabric from her grandmothers after one died and one needed full-time care at a nursing home. And when Rachel opens totes of her grandmother's fabric, it smells like them, awakening memory. Many of my own early childhood memories include fibercraft, playing with my grandmother's tape measure or her pincushion, or the gentle, feather-light touch of my mother as she measures my arms and legs for a sewing project. And now, when I think of that light touch of measuring tape against my skin, it elicits in me a deep feeling of safety. I learned how to knit, crochet, and embroider as a child. Several years ago, I taught myself to crochet again as one of many, many pandemic projects. I hadn't tried to crochet since elementary school. It was so fascinating to watch this early muscle memory come alive again. My hands started to remember what to do, and I felt reconnected to the child who I once was. I felt drawn to this topic of grief and fibercraft because fibercraft helped me move through grief personally. In 2018, my father received a devastating medical diagnosis. I immediately entered a state of surreal disbelief. My mind was totally scrambled. And as I processed the news and prepared to fly home from Washington State, I noticed a strange feeling in my hands. I felt a visceral yearning to hold yarn and knitting needles again. I hadn't done so for years. My fingertips wanted to touch wool. I felt a compulsion. I found myself walking into a yarn store where I wandered around touching skeins of yarn. I was grounding myself. I told the workers at the store that I just had bad news about a family member and that I needed a simple pattern and wool that I could take with me on an airplane. They guided me through my haze to find a pattern, bamboo needles, and soft teal yarn. And these workers told me that I wasn't alone in my longing for fibercraft in times of bad news and stress. Their shop was within walking distance of a children's hospital. They described how distraught parents seemed to arrive at the shop as though sleepwalking. The parents needed something comforting to occupy their hands as they waited at a bedside. Scrambled by grief, they too needed soft yarn and a simple pattern. My knitting accompanied me through the year of my father's illness and death, It accompanied me through air travel and hard conversations. And today I'm wearing this piece that I made out of the teal yarn from the yarn store, and it still comforts me to this day when I touch it. In my early 20s, I worked at an agricultural intentional community called Camp Hill in Pennsylvania. We used organic farming and traditional crafts as a form of therapy, working and living with people with developmental disabilities. And I was assigned to help with the Fiber Arts studio. On a few occasions working there, I got to see the process of yarn being made from start to finish. People with different interests and skills got to help with different stages of the preparation process. This included cleaning and combing the wool, preparing it for spinning, and spinning the yarn with a drop spindle or a spinning wheel. And finally, the yarn was knit into finished pieces that we sold in the craft studio. The repetitive actions of each step were therapeutic, as was the act of touching the fibers. I learned how to use an old-fashioned spinning wheel, and I really liked it. Like all Fibercraft, it was meditative when the process was going great and very not meditative when it was going poorly. And I once witnessed a sheep shearing. It was a much more physical process than I ever expected. I watched the sheep shearer wrestle down a sheep in a barnyard and quickly cut away the fleece. The sheep sprang away afterwards, happy to escape and looking rather raw and vulnerable. When we laid out the raw fleece at the craft studio, it was covered in dirt and brambles. And to my surprise, it smelled awful. It had never occurred to me that wool starts out smelling exactly like the barnyard animal it came from. So we picked out the brambles, and it took weeks of care and attention from many, many people to turn that brambly fleece into soft, lovely, therapeutic yarn. Fibercraft is therapeutic particularly in community settings. There are grief support groups that are called Weaving and Grieving, which invite participants to come with a project while they talk about death and loss. Fibercraft is incorporated into the rituals of death and dying as well. We see this in practices like the wrapping of a burial shroud. Fibercraft is important in Hmong funerals. When a woman is married, her mother will give her a handmade skirt or skirts, which serve as a dowry. And at that daughter's funeral, she will wear one of these skirts. Similarly, daughters make hemp funeral garments for their parents as they grow old. These are a final gift from the family, and they serve a spiritual function. In the spirit realm, the parents wear these hemp garments as they make the journey to meet their ancestors in the afterlife. The hemp clothing sewn for them helps them be recognized by these ancestors. Therapeutic Fibercraft can arise from carefully planned projects, and it can also come from a felt sense of urgency to make something, which was my experience. The multimedia artist, Jennifer Bastian, recently had an art show at a Madison art gallery titled Grief Wave. The gallery was filled with images of grief. This showed up in candle wax sculptures, in photographs, in fabric sculptures, and in sewn teardrops filled and hung from the ceiling. In her artist's statement, Bastian writes, "All of the work in this exhibition began after the death of my second mother, Bev. And it was in direct response to the pain and the very intense love I felt for her. She continues, after Bev died, the absolute urgency and abandon I have felt to feel and do and say has felt like a compulsion. I cannot stop building candle wax sculptures. I cannot stop sewing fluffy stuffed teardrops. I need to make it, so I do it. And now I want to show you two of the quilts by my friend Rachel Schindler. They demonstrate some ways that quilting can work powerfully with grief. The first quilt is a memory quilt. It's extremely difficult to let go of a loved one's clothing after they die. And this is because so many memories are attached to them through that clothing. A memory quilt is a quilt that's made up of a loved one's clothing, and it can also contain symbols and mementos as well. Rachel's memory quilt includes clothing from all of her grandparents. It includes their hand-stitched initials and birthdays. It's a testament to memory and to love. It's also a dynamic object. It continues to interact with life, whether hung on a wall or draped over a bed. The process of creating a memory quilt is extremely personal. People have different timelines for when they're ready to transform clothing into a quilt. The textile artist Heidi Parks, for example, waited 10 years before she felt ready to cut into her father's fabric for a quilt. Memory quilts can be made in collaboration with living relatives. In an episode of the podcast Quilt Talk, Zach Foster describes working with his aunt to make his uncle's memory quilt. They worked together to select his uncle's clothing and symbolism, which was important to him. He made this a dynamic process. Foster brought his own creativity and used the content most meaningful to his aunt. And he also made sure he was emotionally ready to work on this quilt because he didn't want his own overflowing grief to burden his grieving aunt. This second quilt made by Rachel is an example of quilting made in collaboration with the deceased. Rachel's grandmother gifted all of her grandchildren wedding quilts when they got married. Though Rachel wasn't married herself, her grandmother eventually decided to give her a wedding quilt as well. The pattern on this quilt is a meandering line of pieces, and the pattern is titled The Drunkard's Path. When she received it, Rachel noted how the quilt shows a winding, unusual path, which perhaps mirrors her own. She took a different path than the others in her family, with frequent cross-country moves and unusual experiences in life, career, and education. When her grandmother died, Rachel inherited leftover materials from the wedding quilts. Rachel made a new quilt from these older pieces, which you can see here, and she wanted this new quilt to be intentionally her own, to be made in a different way than her grandmother would have made it. She processed grief and made meaning by using the materials in her own way. And Rachel shared with me that this felt like she was working in collaboration with her grandmother. Two large squares in the middle of the quilt were made entirely by her grandmother, and they're in the Drunkard's Path pattern. But when Rachel made the new quilt, her life felt more stable than a rambling path. In addition to her grandmother's original quilt squares, she used scraps from the wedding quilt to create circles. The circles on the quilt symbolize Rachel's feelings of solidity and completion at this stage in her life. She sewed these circles seam side up, as you can see here. And she did that so that you can see Rachel's hand stitching right alongside her grandmother's. It shows their connection and collaboration even after death. Another way to grieve through Fibercraft is to complete a loved one's unfinished projects. Rachel took quilt tops made by her grandmothers and turned them into finished quilts. There's a lovely organization called the Loose Ends Project, which helps these kind of partially completed projects get done. They connect crafters with grieving families and their loved ones' unfinished projects. They will also complete projects for crafters who are sick or disabled and no longer able to work on their craft. So far, the organization has finished 3,500 pieces. Maisie Kaplan, the co-founder of Loose Ends, writes, "Homemade items are gestures of love. The time, expense, and skill that go into making them are impossible to quantify. When you wear something made especially for you, it feels good. The recipient of a handmade gift is thoughtfully considered with each stitch. And when a maker dies mid-project, this tangible handmade expression of love could get lost, donated, or thrown away. Loose Ends volunteers' goals are to finish these projects as intended and to give them back to loved ones to use and to cherish." In one story from the Loose Ends Project, a woman named 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 tragically died when she was 22. And her brother Alfredo discovered a crocheted leaf that she had made. He wanted to make it into a larger piece in her honor, and so he joined crafting groups. He learned to crochet as an act of love for his sister. At one of these crochet groups, a member suggested that he reach out to Loose Ends to help. His finisher, Leah, collaborated with Alfredo to create a blanket featuring 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 incorporating her favorite colors. In another story, Craig, a grieving husband, hadn't been able to touch an unfinished project on his wife Amy's loom after she tragically died in a car accident. He eventually submitted this tapestry with the request that no more work be done on the weaving. He simply wanted it removed from the loom and bound to preserve Amy's work midway through. In today's reading, the speaker looks at a tangled knot in a ball of yarn and says, "I look at it and think this can't be solved. It just is." In the book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay, the therapist Megan Devine writes of grief. Grief is an act of love. Love for life, love for self, love for others. And what you are living, painful as it is love. And love is really hard, excruciatingly so at times. And she also writes, "It really is as bad as you think. Some things cannot be fixed. Some things cannot be fixed, they can only be carried." When comforting those who grieve, the role isn't to fix or offer advice. The role is to see what's real and to come alongside, to offer presence and companionship. For me, and so many others, Fibercraft can offer something like that presence. There are fibers that bind us together, physical reminders of connection and love. Fibercrafts are something tangible and comforting that accompanies alongside pain, that doesn't seek to change, that journeys with. Some things cannot be fixed, they can only be carried. And to carry a memory quilt is to carry grief and love stitched together. And this weighty reminder of the love that cannot die can help carry us forward. May it be so, and blessed be. Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing We Walk in Love. The words are in your order of service program notes.
You'll notice that this is in 4-part harmony. So there are people out there that know how to do this. We know who you are, you know who they are. And we would like you to join us. 4-part harmony, or 1, whatever.
You're invited to remain standing and to reach out with heart or hand to those around you. As we prepare to leave this sacred space, may we be blessed by community and know that we are held in love. Our closing words are by Alice Walker. Love, if it is love, never goes away. It is embedded in us like seams of gold in earth, waiting for light, waiting to be struck. Please be seated for our postlude. After the service, all are invited to gather in the atrium for coffee and fellowship.
And we have another opportunity for you to sing with us. You'll get the hang of this really quickly. On the wo-ya-yas, we'll sing wo-ya-ya, and you'll just echo wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya.